Before we get started, make sure to turn on post notification and subscribe to the channel. 10 wrestlers that want a WWE return, but Vince won't sign them. Number 10. Chavo Guerrero. Chavo Guerrero is one of the wrestling's greatest veterans that is still working at the moment. He has proven himself time after time in so many different companies working as a heel. A face in serious or comedic roles, he really is the perfect company man. Not to mention that Chavo is a superb wrestler, coming from one of the most legendary families in sports history. Even though bringing Chavo back to simply add a veteran's knowledge to the roster seems like a smart idea, on paper, Vince knows that the current locker room is full of that with the likes of Goldust and R-Truth, so isn't likely to give Chavo another run, even for nostalgia's sake. Number 9. MVP. MVP was always a firm fan favorite during his WWE run, working as one of SmackDown's top stars throughout the majority of his time. It was a surprise that he was never given a bigger push by the company, as he had all the attributes needed. He has continued wrestling at a high level ever since leaving WWE with TNA, MLW, and on the independent scene, and bringing him back to WWE as his Royal Rumble surprise for one more run with the company. However, given it has been several years since we last saw MVP, Vince McMahon is likely now looking to bring someone coming to the end of their career back to the company, at least not someone who wasn't a headline name in the first place. Number 8. RVD. One of ECW's biggest ever stars, also managed to make himself a major name in WWE, something that few of the Extreme wrestlers did as single superstars, but with this unique in-ring style, blending kicks and high-flying wrestling, RVD was able to stand out amongst the pack. He has been brought back several times for one-off appearances and longer deals, but it has been several years since we last saw him inside a WWE ring, and he's likely now itching for one more final run with the company before calling it a day. However, there has been rumors of an eye injury that RVD suffered, which would stop him from passing a medical, and RVD's history with a certain substance is something that's probably pushing Vince McMahon away, especially given WWE's PG status. Number 7. Mr. Kennedy. Vince McMahon is likely very hesitant to bring Mr. Kennedy back to WWE, considering how many issues the company had with him during his first spell. Kennedy had injury problems as well as issues backstage with veterans like John Cena and Randy Orton, something Vince won't have forgotten. Every year events like the Royal Rumble come around and Kennedy's name is always the one that comes up, but he never appears, leaving his dedicated fan base disappointed and frustrated. But that is something that will likely continue, despite the fact he's still involved in the sport and likely open to one final run with the company, with Triple H gaining more influence. Vince McMahon's ears likely being turned on to top NXT talents rather than bringing back old WWE superstars. Number 6. Damien Sandow. Damien Sandow excelled in every single role he was given in WWE, whether he was being positioned as a top superstar looking toward a possible world championship run as Mr. Money in the Bank, or as a comedic character in his Mizdow gimmick. However, even though he was a solid hand to have in the company, WWE made the decision to let him go, something that surprised many of the WWE universe. Since then, despite a brief run with Impact Wrestling, Sandow hasn't been able to make a major name for himself in the wrestling industry, and he would certainly be open to another run with WWE. However, given that Vince released him while he was incredibly popular, he isn't going to bring him back now since he's been out of the game for so long. Number 5. Carlito. Carlito was one of the most memorable upper mid-card talents in modern history, but hasn't been seen in WWE since 2010, and fans would certainly be open to see the apple-spitting WWE superstar one more time. At this stage in Carlito's career, as he heads into his 40s, one more run with WWE will likely serve him well, potentially linking up with the Colones to give the tag team a much needed boost. However, Vince McMahon has likely all but given up on the tag team, and reinventing them one more time, as well as adding another wage bill to the list, is something that he's probably not overly interested in doing right now. Number 4. Wade Barrett. Wade Barrett's release was another one that took many people by surprise. He was a victim of poor booking and had a very solid career as a mid-card talent, even though he had all the attributes to be a world champion. Barrett is someone who simply needed some time to refresh his batteries before returning, and that's exactly what he has done, and the fact he is dipping his toes back into the UK wrestling scene in manager and commentary roles shows he still has the itch for the sport. However, despite his ability and the face he has shown WWE, the respect of not actually wrestling, the fact he's working for so many of WWE's direct rivals in the UK scene is likely going to put Vince off. Number 3. Big Cass. It seemed like WWE had big plans for Big Cass when he returned from injury, being placed straight into a feud with Daniel Bryan, but then the next minute he was being released from the company, seemingly out of the blue. Issues backstage and his attitude were rumored to be the main reasons for his release, and Cass was sensible when he came out and gave a statement, admitting that he would have fired himself, seemingly putting an olive branch to the company with an apology. However, with the wound so fresh, it is likely that Vince McMahon would rather give opportunities to other talents and wait and see if Big Cass can prove himself on the independent scene before being led back. Number 2. Molina. Throughout the women's evolution, WWE has brought back countless legends from Lita and Trish Stratus to Michelle McCool and Kelly Kelly. But one name that hasn't been brought up was Molina. The former women's champion hasn't been involved in either Evolution or the Women's Royal Rumble, despite the huge contribution that she gave to the business and the fact that she was far ahead of her time in terms of ability. Molina has stated she wanted to be involved in the shows, but they fell on the deaf ears, which is likely down to the rumors regarding her attitude and issues backstage during her run with the company, something that Vince is likely hoping to avoid. Number 1. Eva Marie. It was quite a surprise when WWE announced Eva Marie was being released, as the company had placed so much faith and promotion into her. The company made her one of the major stars for Total Divas, despite debuting on the show having never wrestled a match. WWE also really worked hard with her in terms of wrestling. She was given the perfect gimmick to push her skill at gaining heat, and while hiding her flaws, which just so happened to be her wrestling ability. Eva Marie was recently interviewed by Pro Wrestling Sheet, where she expressed an interest in possibly returning to the company, with the feud against the Bella Twins being her ideal situation. However, with WWE really promoting its female talent as athletes rather than models, it is unlikely Vince is ever going to consider bringing Eva back.